I always knew my family saw me more as a wallet than a daughter, but nothing prepared me for what they did to me on that cold, foreign street, thousands of miles from home. We had flown to Italy for what was supposed to be a family bonding vacation. My parents insisted it was their dream to see the Amalfi Coast before retirement. I agreed and paid for the flights, the villa, the excursions, and even their spa treatments. Not that they ever said thank you. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. From day one, they treated me like their personal assistant. Book our tour, buy the wine, pay the bill. My mother said, "It's the least you can do since you don't have a husband or kids." My sister Lisa had joined us last minute. She never even offered to split a meal, let alone a cab. She had her usual smirk every time my card tapped. I swallowed the resentment. I thought, maybe this trip will fix things. But on the fourth day, over lunch in Positano, my father leaned over and casually said, "We're thinking you should lend us about $25,000 for that investment we talked about." I paused. "What investment?" "The one your cousin is doing. Real estate flipping. Your sister's already in." Lisa smiled smugly and sipped her drink. "I already sent them the down payment. You should do it too." "Don't be selfish." I laughed nervously. "I'm not lending that kind of money. I worked 10 years to save what I have. I'm not risking it." The shift in their energy was immediate. My mother rolled her eyes and muttered, "Of course. You never support family." My father said, "We raised you. The least you can do is help us grow our future." I replied, "I already paid for this entire trip. That is helping." Lisa snapped, "Oh, please, you act like money makes you better than everyone." They sulked for the rest of the meal, but I didn't think they'd take it further. The next morning, I woke up late. The house was empty. I checked the group chat. No new messages. Their rooms? Stripped. Their bags? Gone. I thought maybe they'd gone sightseeing early. Then I saw the note taped to the fridge. "Don't be dramatic. We left. You can sort yourself out. You're so independent after all. See you back home." My hands trembled. I rushed to call them. No answer. I texted. Blue ticks. No reply. They left me alone, in a foreign country, with no car, no cash, no key to the villa. I was locked out. My own family. I found my way to a nearby cafe and sat there, humiliated and shaking, phone in one hand, cold espresso in the other. I stared at their Instagram stories. They were now in Rome. My mom had posted a photo of Lisa with the caption, "My favorite travel partner." I had never felt so disposable, but they made one mistake. They underestimated how much access I had. I wasn't just their ATM, I was their financial safety net. When I got back online, I logged into the joint investment account I managed for my parents, the one I set up years ago to help them save for retirement. I changed the passwords. I called the bank and froze their cards under suspicious activity. I even reversed the flight upgrades I had paid for. By sunset, they were stranded in Rome with zero access to cash, 5-star bookings canceled, and no idea why. I sat by the sea that night in Amalfi. Alone, yes, but powerful. I booked myself a private driver and moved to a cliffside hotel. This time, I didn't pay for anyone else's room. The messages started pouring in around 7 p.m. "Mom, what did you do to our cards?" "Dad, we can't pay for the hotel. Fix this now." "Lisa, you think this is funny? You're ruining our trip." For a moment, I stared at the screen. 3 people who left me stranded were now stranded themselves. It would have been poetic if it hadn't been so painful. I replied simply, "Sort yourself out. You're so independent, remember?" Silence. That night, I ate dinner alone on a candle-lit balcony, waves crashing below, my phone buzzing every few minutes. At first, it was angry texts, then guilt trips, then threats, and finally, begging. The next morning, I went down to the front desk of my hotel to check out early. I was heading to Venice next, solo. As I passed through the lobby, a concierge rushed toward me with a bouquet of white lilies. "From your family," he said. There was a note. "Please forgive us. Come to Rome. We're sorry. We miss you." I rolled my eyes and tossed the flowers into the trash. These people weren't sorry. They were stranded, and they needed a bank card that worked. What they didn't know was that while they were sleeping, I had also sent a formal fraud report to the family bank. My parents had used my identity before. Small things, like co-signing Lisa's old car loan without asking me. I had let it slide, but now I submitted everything. Screenshots, messages, financial proof of misuse. The account was now officially frozen, and a fraud investigator was assigned. By day 3, their messages turned panicked. "Mom, your dad can't refill his medication. We have no money. Please." "Lisa, you don't understand what this is doing to us." And finally, "Dad, you always were the ungrateful one. But this is betrayal." I whispered the words out loud to myself, sitting in a gondola in Venice. Betrayal? They left their own daughter in a foreign country to prove a point. And I was the betrayer? I spent the next few days soaking in the silence. No one telling me I was too selfish. No one mocking my independence. I took cooking classes, visited glassmakers in Murano, and laughed freely for the first time in years. But I knew they'd come home eventually. And when they did, I had one last card to play. Before leaving Italy, I stopped by a local art gallery and commissioned something unusual, a painting, a large oil canvas. It featured me, alone on a cliff in Amalfi, standing tall. Below, 3 shadows, distant and small, tried to climb the rocks toward me, but the waves kept pushing them back. The title? Una figlia dimenticata. A daughter forgotten. I shipped it back to our home city, where I lived just a few blocks from my parents, and had it hung in my personal gallery lobby, the one they had never once visited. Because they never asked what I did for a living. They thought I worked for someone. In truth, I owned the building they lived in. I owned the gallery they mocked. I owned the boutique Lisa said smelled poor. I was never going to loan them money, because I was never the broke one. They were just too busy laughing at me to see it. It had been 2 full weeks since I'd frozen their cards. I hadn't heard from them directly, just bits of desperate voicemails from their hotel, calls from unknown numbers, and a few broken, pitiful emails begging me to fix the bank mistake. But I didn't reply. Not yet. I let them taste the silence. I let them live without the credit cards they always weaponized, because for once, they were the ones stuck in survival mode. They'd gone on to Egypt thinking they'd enjoy a luxury Nile cruise. I found out through one of my father's business acquaintances that the tour had cut them off mid-trip after multiple payment failures. They were eventually dropped off in a remote town with their luggage, passports, and 0 access to cash. And it turned out, my mother's prized designer purse was fake. Meanwhile, I was back home, quietly rebuilding my life. The gallery I'd dreamed of opening? It was already in soft launch, thanks to the connections I'd built during my months abroad. The pain they'd inflicted had become my drive. I poured every ounce of humiliation, every tear, every insult into my art, and people noticed. One of my paintings, a dark, stormy canvas called Inheritance of Absence, was already trending among collectors. Another piece, Family Budget Cuts, depicted 2 silver scissors cutting an umbilical cord made of $100 bills. Poetic justice became my medium. And then, one afternoon, I received a notice from the management company that owned the apartment building where I lived. A tenant application had been submitted by my parents. I thought it was a mistake. Until I saw their names. Apparently, my father had lost his job after disappearing overseas without notice. Their house had been foreclosed. Lisa's townhouse was under renovation, and she refused to host them long-term. Desperate, they applied to rent a unit. In the building I secretly owned through an LLC. The leasing agent, unaware of the drama, called me to verify. "Miss Hart, I assume you're okay approving the Thompsons' application?" I didn't respond immediately. Then I smiled. "Show them Unit 509, I said. "Let them think they're being welcomed." That evening, I arrived early to the leasing office and waited inside the conference room with tinted windows. I wore all white, crisp blazer, heels, and a silver pendant that belonged to my grandmother, the only family member who had truly loved me. I didn't flinch when they walked in. My mother gasped when she saw me. My father tried to act composed, but his eyes darted around like a cornered animal. Lisa, who'd tagged along, looked like she'd just realized the floor was lava. "What are you doing here?" my mother asked, voice sharp. "I own this building," I said calmly, "through a private LLC. They froze. I opened a manila folder and slid a copy of the application across the table. "So you've applied for a unit. Interesting choice." My father cleared his throat. "It was the only building we could find with decent rent. We didn't know—" "Of course you didn't," I interrupted. "You never cared to ask where I lived or how I paid for it. Remember when you said I was just wasting time on canvas?" My mother's lips tightened. "Don't be petty, honey. We had no idea this was yours." "But you knew enough to abandon me in a foreign country," I said, my tone now sharp. "You left me stranded because I refused to fund your hotel upgrade and shopping sprees. You said I was ungrateful for not supporting you." My father shifted. "We were under a lot of pressure." "You left your daughter behind," I snapped, "and now you're here, looking for shelter, from me." I stood up and walked to the window. Below, in the courtyard, a new mural was being painted. My mural. A giant tree with tangled roots choking the words, "Blood doesn't equal loyalty." I turned back to them. "You want a unit here?" "Sure. On 3 conditions." My parents blinked. 1, you'll pay 3 months' rent up front. Cash. My mother opened her mouth, but I raised my hand. 2, you'll sign a contract promising no contact, no drop-ins, no family visits, nothing. My father's nostrils flared. "And 3, I said, stepping forward, "you'll look me in the eye and say you were wrong." Dead silence. Lisa stepped forward. "This is ridiculous." "No," I replied coldly. "What was ridiculous was leaving your sister in a foreign country with nothing but her sketch pad. What was ridiculous was mocking me for years, then needing me the second your world collapsed." My father stood abruptly. "We don't need your charity." I handed him their declined application. "Then you can leave." He paused. His pride crumbled. But I didn't watch them walk out. I turned away. I looked out the window at the mural that now bore my initials in gold at the base. Later that night, I updated my gallery's website with a new artist statement. "I come from silence, from being invisible. Now I paint loud." I wasn't the forgotten daughter anymore. I was the landlord, the artist, the revenge they never saw coming. And as they left that building, walking into a storm of their own making, I didn't even have to slam the door. Because now I owned the whole damn building. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you